Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is TFT. It's Sunday. Is it a new month yet? Oh, it is a new month. It's the 1st of March. Welcome to everybody here. Of course, this is Tinfoil Talk, and we're going to be talking about the government's little black books. And of course, that means governmental black projects, or whatever you'd like to call them. Of course, this is a very broad topic today, but we like to keep it broad here so that we can have a good conversation for a while. And do keep in mind, we're very happy to have you all in here, of course. Definitely check out our links down below, guys, particularly the Twitter one, because we'd love to hear from you. Would also love to have you on the show as a guest, of course, with TFT or any of our Fan Speak shows. If you have any ideas or you want to be part of a conversation with TFT, just hit me up with that. And of course, if you're an artist aspiring or established, doesn't matter, and you want to be part of the DNQFE, definitely come over and hit me up with that, and we'll get you through that process. But nevertheless, it's a really nice day here. I got an absolutely gorgeous sunny day, perfect temperature, cup of hot coffee sitting in front of me, and of course, I'm going to sit here and be talking about conspiracy theories. Who doesn't like that? Because it's fun. Right. And once again, disclaimer, as if it should be have to put out. Yeah, we're just having fun, man. We're just having fun. Have fun with us, right? And there's a lot of interesting things to talk about here today. So I'm going to be looking forward to the conversation we have. We might have a couple other people jumping in over time, but today we're going to be doing it a little bit different, I think. And of course, we'll always be paying attention to what you guys in the chat have to say and trying to keep up with you. But of course, I am joined by the absolutely master of things that are all brushy and Z, Model 3.
Hey Chester, how you going?
I'm doing pretty good. I made a rhyme.
Oh,
Did
I
you
love
catch it?
tinfoil.
Oh, that tinfoil is a lot of fun, dude. We just talk about whatever. It's pretty cool. But yeah, let me go over and see who's in the chat before we jump into this. We got a bunch of people in here already. Thank you very much. Very nice, Roger. They actually flagged your phone number there because they probably thought you were actually doxing someone, which is good to see that YouTube seems to care about that now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere. So all right. And I do notice that notifications went out immediately, dude. Immediately. It was only 2 minutes late, delayed. Only 2 minutes. That's pretty awesome, dude.
Not too bad, huh?
Not too bad. That's rare. We don't get that very often. We got Flying Saucer in here. We also have Jimmy Ortiz. Hey, you doing, dude? I haven't spoken to him in a long time. I like Jimmy. You like Jimmy?
Talking about E?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I like Jimmy, man. He's fun, and he and I are like we're kind of sports fans, particularly boxing. And there's not a lot of sports fans in this community. The whole nerd thing. Yeah. Um,
I like to troll E every now and then.
Do you? Oh, that's good.
Mm.
That's good. We also got Dennis in here and Joe. Nice to have you guys. We're getting a lot of stuff held for review and stuff. What's going on? YouTube's been weird the past couple days. Have you noticed that? Yeah, you put on a video and it delays it with some kind of error message for like 5, 10 seconds or something.
Yes, yes. I've had that oh, I have this Chester, I gotta tell you about this series. It's not tinfoil. I found this channel.
Uh huh.
It's called Tewaza, and it's all traditional Japanese crafts. It's like 100 videos.
Oh,
It's the most
Tiwaza.
amazing thing.
Oh,
It's just unbelievable. I've been watching it for 3 days, but you're right. Every time a new video comes on, it gives an error message, and you have to refresh.
yeah, it's weird. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. They've obviously done something that's causing them a little bit of consternation, but they do that a little bit too often. But Tewaza is so it's like it's talking about like calligraphy or what's it about?
Well, I think Tewaza is basically hand technique. So I think what it's meaning is handmade in that usage.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
So it's everything. It's inlay, it's lacquerware, it's pottery. I mean, tea whisks,
Oh,
shades,
nice.
shojis, lantern. I mean, it's 100 videos. It's the most amazing thing I've ever found on YouTube
That's
because I
awesome.
love. I'm a huge fan of Japanese crafts. In fact, I'm formally trained in koshira for restoring swords.
Oh, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that.
I can restore a sword just from a blade, and in fact, I've done the oldest one I've ever done is was about 700 years old. Pretty incredible. Of course, here in the states, um, they are stolen property. It's war loot basically, and but a lot of people over here have them, and if you send them to a Japanese uh, koshira or koshira ka, I guess it would be, or they will keep them and send them back to Japan. So
Yeah, no, the Japanese are really good at that kind of thing, you know. They take a lot of pride in whatever doing whatever you do really well, right? Um,
oh,
and um,
absolutely.
and that's a really cool thing about living here. Actually, you see a lot of incredible skill, even if it's the simplest thing. I mean, that's why when you go to a McDonald's in Japan, it's nothing like anywhere else you've ever been, because even though they're still making the same crap, they do it as absolutely best they can, because otherwise, they could be shamed, right? And it's just cultural. So you see just the level of workmanship in every little teeny thing, even the obscure and the inane, such as McDonald's food. Uh,
There's a really interesting line in that movie, the last, what was it, the Last Samurai with Tom Cruise.
mhm.
And while he's doing his narrative, he makes an observation that everyone he sees sets out to be the best every day at what they're doing, no matter the smallest job. And that's where a lot of my admiration for Japanese craftsmanship, whether it's wood joinery or I mean everything. It's
Mhm.
just there's so much pride and perfection involved. It's incredible.
It is incredible, and of course, with their carpenters in particular, is one that shines. Other than all the little handicrafts you're talking about, like putting 50 layers on a lacquered plate. I mean, that kind of thing is incredible. But the carpentry here in Japan is probably only rivaled by German carpentry, because Germans are really impressive woodworkers. If you guys didn't know that. The Japanese, it's just impressive. They can build entire gigantic structures without a single shred of metal, dude. Just pure
Absolutely.
wood, right? It's impressive to see what they do, and I've seen it. We have in the family, we actually have a temple carpenter. In the family, and of course that's where they don't use any nails at all. Even the modern housing, though, they don't use a lot of nails. They use metal brackets sometimes, but they're not really big in the nails here. They kind of dovetail everything together. But yeah, Japan's pretty cool as far as that goes. But one of the problems that comes out of that though model is the fact that try to find the soul in the work, right?
In Japanese work?
Yeah, I know that the Western
Oh,
Hollywood
I
image is that the Japanese are extremely spiritual, and it's all this amazing Zen thing. It's nonsense. The Japanese have no ethos whatsoever, dude. They have none. They don't
oh,
believe in
you're
anything.
talking about yeah, and but I mean my admiration is just
Skill.
in the skill.
Yeah, I
It's
get
really
that.
incredible.
I get that. But to give you an example, of course, you can find an incredible number of just amazingly articulate musicians anywhere you look, right? I'm a musician. That's the thing I do as far as artistic stuff. And so I can find all kind of instrumentalists that can do anything you want, but they have no individuality. They have no ability to, ad lib or solo something. They look at you sideways when you ask them to think outside the box here, dude. I mean, it's the simplest thing. Let me give you an example. I went to we have a place here called Mossberger, which stands for Mountain, Ocean, and Sky. I don't know, whatever. But it's basically like a McDonald's Burger King, which is just made fresh, and it takes longer. But anyway, I went and they have these chili burgers, right? Right? They got a chili burger, or no, they have a chili dog. Sorry. And there's right there is a big old pot of chili, and I was like, I'd like to have chili on my hamburger instead of this like salsa sauce thing they put on it. And they didn't know how to handle it. They couldn't handle it, right? And I was like, I'll pay for it, no problem. But they can't handle that because it's not in the manual, right?
Sure.
So. This is the negative side of it, was what I'm trying to say. Anyway, you know. Anybody else have any anecdotal stories about Japan? I wonder. Uh, Let's see. We get Tank Ferret in here, which is very nice. Joe says, "You flex your rod, fish takes the hook, sweet vodka and tobacco in her breath. Another number in your little black books." Glad you got the joke, dude. Thank you. At least someone appreciates me half the time. Dave says, "NHK World plays stuff like that." Yeah, dude. I love those shows, man. Anytime a master is working on something, it is just epic to watch. I like just sitting here watching what Model does. I mean, he's really good at this. If you guys haven't noticed, people stealing stolen goods. What has this world come to? hmm let's see. Sucking on a chili dog outside the tasty freeze. Well, Joe's all full of references today. All right. Well, anything to add or kind of sum up before we jump into this today, Model?
No, I think I'm ready to go.
I am too. So
You
I'm
know,
going to.
I don't trust the government, so I'm ready.
Well, I mean, it's a fool that would trust a government. I mean, I don't
I
know.
can't wait to just get old and sit on my porch and bitch about the government. That's one of
That,
the things I'm looking forward to.
yeah, that's gonna be fun. I can imagine. Maybe you be sitting down on the bayou, mosquitoes all around. Pretty little black girls running on the streets. Yeah, I can see it, man.
Of
Why did that movie
course.
come into my head? I don't know. Oh well. Anyway, so
So which one are we going to go after tonight? Because this is huge. This is like a month worth of shows.
it is, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take a look at a website I found that I thought would be fun just to kind of hack around. But I am going to give my primer as usual. So let me do that. Let's see here. Let me share my screen and then get into my little. I got a short primer today, but because this topic, as Model has said, is pretty big one. All right, so there you go, and let me come on over here to this. All right, well, of course, today we're talking about the government's little black books. And of course, that's talking about black book projects, black ops, whatever you want to call them. Now, of course, there are hundreds and hundreds of projects that are secret or top secret or various levels of secret within any government on the planet, obviously. But the ones that interest us the most, the ones that have a little bit of a possibility of some supernatural touch. And we humans love that. We love the seance. We love the ghost story. It is just part of our DNA. It's like it's built into us that we enjoy these kind of things, right? And why not, right? I mean, because one thing I've said on the show a few times, and it's just simply my modus operandi. No, I guess it's my mantra or what have you, is the fact that you can't prove anything's real. There is no proof of God, but there's also no proof that there is no God, etc., etc., etc. Therefore, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you can enjoy and believe whatever you want, right? And that's a much more
Sure,
fun.
you can't even trust photographs anymore. I mean,
No, God
it's
no,
it's,
God no.
it's
Yeah.
gotten weird.
So I'm just saying, why not just enjoy yourself along the way? Yeah. That's what I
Sure.
think. So I don't really worry much about those stuff or care much about it at all, unless it's affecting me directly. But nevertheless, one of the ones that comes up with these black projects a lot. I did my research as usual, and there are hundreds of these things just that are publicly known in America. So they're not very secret model. They're kind of out there.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. But one
Which goes
thing.
back to my which goes back to my theory that the stuff that's out is like they're okay with it being out. The stuff that they really don't want is covered up in misinformation and confusion. And
Well, reality is stranger than fiction. Yeah. It could be all propaganda, right? I mean, it's very possible. I mean,
of
we
course,
know
yeah.
that this NSA and such, they will go to such lengths as to create a magazine for teenage girls called, Teen Magazine, to literally control and mold the mind of young girls in America. This is known, and yet no one is throwing things at the Congress building and getting angry with them for doing that, right?
No.
So yeah,
all manner of pop culture is programming. Hate to say it.
it is true. It is very true,
If
and I
you're
think we
seeing
know
it
that.
come through your cable box, it has been approved.
Fair.
That's my opinion on
Fair
it.
point. Do you think the YouTube here is reason why we're seeing so much pushback from things like Google is because you have a bunch of us who aren't on program, aren't on the pay list, and therefore we're kind of talking out of turn. You think?
Oh, no question. Google is a information gathering.
Device,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, it is. It
yeah,
absolutely is.
for the for
Yeah,
the for the NSA.
yeah. hmm And don't you believe that if you think you put up yourself your little VPN and you got your little what do they call that you can shift your Google page over to some kind of secret or safe page. I can't think of what it's called. But don't you for a minute don't think that they're not cataloging that as well because that's a
No,
bunch
and
of bunk.
you can hide yourself from other citizens
Oh
and
sure,
businesses,
oh sure.
but you can't from the
No, not at
government.
all, not at all. Because one of my secret pleasures is the Muppets model. I'm dread to admit it, but I do
It
love the
is good.
Muppets. I love them when I was a kid, and I have just offhand maybe searched for a Muppet here or there to buy for my kids or something like that, and all of a sudden Google knows everything about my love of Muppets, and they start advertising Muppets to me.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
I see
impressive.
that all the time.
You do.
Facebook really got that going. And Facebook is definitely it's a data collection
Oh, sure,
project.
sure. But I mean, of course, once again, am I making a euphemism, or was I being true and real with you? The love of
I'm not
Muppets.
sure.
Actually, I did love the Muppet Show. That was one of the coolest TV shows ever put on. But I love Jim Henson. He's one of the coolest guys ever. It's too bad he worked himself to death. But anyway, of course, everything we're mentioning here is all about this kind of governmental conspiracy stuff. And of course, what used to be the iconic image, I'm going to ask Model what it is now, because Model's a bit younger than me. Not much though, but he is a bit younger, and I'm kind of curious what his thing would be. Because for me, the kind of that ultimate symbol of the government black project is this, the black helicopter, right? That was one of the big conspiracy theories for a long time. I don't know why. It seems like the most obvious thing to me, but nevertheless, it was. And that's kind of the image of a secret governmental operation, the black helicopter. But I have a feeling it's changed, model. What would you say would be the ultimate symbol today of governmental projects, secret projects?
Secret projects, well, I mean, it would be any number of agencies. NASA, it could be JPL.
Yeah, but what would be
Yeah,
the image? Because if I'm in a conversation, I say, well, that's like a black helicopter. People get what I mean automatically, especially my generation. I'm just wondering,
well,
is that still
tinfoil
true?
hat. Yeah, I mean,
Tinfoil
tinfoil
hat.
hat is a big one.
Now, we
Yeah,
talked about this
the
offhand.
origin of the black helicopters was that, people would look up and they would constantly be seeing them overhead.
Oh, well, sure, because they were actually, real things. I never understood why it became such a big thing. It was not shocking to me that government flies around in helicopters. They're very mobile things. You can go anywhere you want. Makes sense. But I just was curious if it had changed because, in tinfoil talk in of itself, I don't know who. I think we talked about it on the channel. I'm not sure exactly who created the terminology, but it's obviously used one to debunk people and to put you in your place, right?
It's a pejorative, no
It is.
question.
It is. Yeah.
But the entire the term conspiracy theory was CIA.
That's true. That's true. They're up to a lot of stuff, man. But
Oh, they got
anyway, the
expensive
black
stuff
they are
going
up
on.
to some stuff, and we're going to get into what they've been up to for the past 100 years. Today's show, I'm kind of sticking to a 100-year period. There are certain conversations we can have before that, because there were certainly things going on back then too. Don't believe it started just recently. But I'm going to cover the past 100 years, and basically going to go from Project Twinkle. Yeah, I'm not joking. Project Twinkle up until the modern day. So Project Twinkle, I'll get to in a moment, but let's start off. Well, no, we'll start off with Project Twinkle. No, we won't. We'll come back to it. First thing I do want to talk about is some of those early projects. Now, we talked about this a little bit last week, model with the Manhattan Project, of course, and a little bit of the Philadelphia experiment, which was attached to that, oddly. But with the Manhattan Project, it's not a joke or anything. It was a real thing. It created the nuclear atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, of course. And there's been a lot of documentation and storytelling and stuff around that, which, the Enola Gay and all that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, a lot of people also understand that after that, the Americans and the Russians were doing a lot of nuclear testing to try to understand the nature of nuclear energy, nuclear bombs, and things like that. Anything from projects that existed to take a rocket the size of the Empire frickin' State Building and using small nuclear explosions, launch it into space. They did a lot of work on this, and it was finally shut down because they did another project that found that a lot of people around California and outside of that Nevada circle were starting to have some radiation seep into their bodies, and they were like, "Oops, maybe this isn't good." And you know how they tested that model? You know the project that went to find out what was in your body radiation wise, because they can't just say, "Hey, come in, we're going to check all of you." They can't do that, right? They checked baby teeth. Baby
Mm.
teeth. Now I want to know who in the hell collected the baby teeth. I want to understand that, right? But that's what they did, right? And they shut these projects down ultimately. But the really creepy thing model about that one where they were trying to send that skyscraper size rocket up into space using a nuclear blast. You know what it was for? It's really interesting
Well,
because
I know that von Braun originally said it would take a rocket the size of the Empire State Building to get out into orbit.
yeah, and they shrunk
So,
it down. They got down a little smaller than it, but no, and that's a fair point. But no, the reason they were doing it was because in case something bad happened to the Earth, like a wipeout scenario from an asteroid strike or something like that, they wanted to be able to save some of humanity and get them into space. And that project was designed to create a rocket that would go to Saturn. Now, the funny thing for me is we had a lot of people, talking about the radiation aspect, the unethical nature of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But for me, the interesting point of that is Saturn. Why Saturn? What do they
oh, they
know that we
love
don't know?
Saturn. Yeah,
Huh?
they love
They
Saturn.
do love Saturn. And we're going to
Part of their
have to
religion.
do the black box itself, dude. We're going to have to do it on this show. You know that, right? I mean,
Okay.
we might well get shut down for that
Are
one,
you
though,
talking
dude.
about the Kaaba?
I'm talking about the
Or
Saturnist, dude.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, you'll get a little disclaimer on your video.
probably.
To Encyclopedia Britannica, so that people can learn the real truth.
That's true. That's true. Maybe it'll just be that simple. But yeah, no, the Saturn thing comes up a lot. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but it's weird. It's definitely weird. Now, of course, we're looking here at I believe this is from the Godzilla movie or something like that, but of course, this is the Bikini Atoll. I do understand there were a lot of type of atmospheric nuclear explosions done by America to test various things. Of course, we had Project Teak, we had Project Orange, which, were dealing with all kind of nuclear stuff. There was lots and lots and lots of nuclear programs going on, creating all kind of weirdness and odd approaches to it. And the reason I mention it, because you're like, what does this have to do with Black Book stuff? Well, of course, these are all secret projects for one. But in my research model, this week, when I went back looking at all the type of secret government projects that I found three. I found three major groups really. And there are a little bit of outliers, but in general, they all kind of fall into three categories. One is nuclear science-based research, right? And just for your information, here's what the Bikini Atoll looks like today. Yeah, they put a dent in that sucker, didn't they?
Yeah, but I've always heard conflicting reports on whether or not that radiation even stuck around to be a problem,
It might
which is
not have been.
interesting too.
Yeah.
Because that is another conspiracy theory, about nuclear weapons. That it's been way overblown as to the the actual destructive nature of them.
Hmm.
And one of the case studies that is used is that a year after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that there were plants growing again, and it was green.
Oh, well, as it would, I would think. I mean, I'm not a nuclear physicist, of course, but I did study me some basic science, and I know that we are bombarded by radiation all times of the day. You're being hit by radiation. I do know that
Absolutely.
if you get a heavy dose of radiation, more than likely the worst effect you're going to have, it either makes you sterile or it could mutate your sperm, thus causing mutation in any child you bore. But yeah, that's about all I know about it. Yeah.
Well, and you could probably take that back to Cold War era when they were really just scaring the crap out of people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's, you know why they were really pushing that hype was because they knew right well that Russia was no threat at all. Right.
Sure.
That's the most ironic thing for me after the fall of Berlin Wall is understanding that Russia was not then, nor were they ever a threat to America ever.
Well, it's amazing what we're getting bombarded with now that Russia is this big,
Yeah.
just this monster that is looking to, they never were really a
No,
problem.
no, and they still aren't. I mean, you know, the easiest way to tell this is to go and just pay a little bit of attention to the Russians themselves, right? They're very strong-willed people. They're very, get it done yourself, which makes sense. I mean, because they did live under the Soviet regime for quite a while, so they had to be self-reliant. And another thing that's kind of universal about them, model that I think is pretty interesting, they love Putin. They love that dude. And I'm not talking about governmental controlled polls or any of that kind of nonsense. They love Vladimir Putin because he embodies them perfectly. He's a strong man, and they love that. They respect it, right? And
Absolutely.
and all this nonsense that comes out of all this media, which you all know it's nonsense. It's really interesting because if you go talk to an actual Russian, they just laugh because it's such a joke, right? The interesting thing I
Do you
noticed.
remember?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna, just kind of an off comment here, but do you remember eight movies in the '80s? Like, for instance, one that really comes to mind is Firefox. You remember that movie with Clint
Oh, that
Eastwood?
was Clint Eastwood. That was a great movie, dude.
But you remember? Do you remember how scary it was as he was sneaking in to get that plane? Because everybody, I remember watching that with my cousin, and we all thought that the Soviets were so evil that if he got caught, he'd be you know executed and tortured, and
Oh yeah.
but I mean that was the kind of picture that they had painted for everybody. And
Oh yeah.
I remember anytime there were Russians in a movie thinking, oh boy, it's the Russians.
Yeah. Well, and that's true, and they very successfully created that enemy. And it's been said for a long time that since America broke its standard thinking and actually started getting involved in these wars, starting with World War I, that we always need an enemy, right? And of course, the funny thing about it is the Russians. The reality of it is, if you did get caught by the Russians, what would really end up happening is they put you in a room and they talk you to death. I mean, that's the reality of it, right? I mean, if you want to go find the things that they'll actually torture you or do some really bad things to you, go to China or go to India or go to some of
Or
the
go to the
Arabic
United
countries
States.
or go to the United States, right? I mean, that can happen there too. We do tend to ignore a lot of the really not nasty stuff America was doing during World War II because, I mean, Nazis, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I've
Yeah,
been
and the
looking at this picture
Japanese
here.
got a nice little pass on that too.
Oh man, they were horrible in China, dude. What they were doing, they were really horrible. But then again, everybody's guilty at some time or another. Every culture has done horrible things. It just is what it is.
Sure.
But model, I've been sitting here looking at this bikini atoll picture, which is a pretty nice picture, pretty high def. And tell me if that hole doesn't look like Godzilla's head.
It could be it's a shadow, you think, and not actually
Yeah, yeah. It's
like
just
a geological formation. It's
that's what
just a
it is.
shadow of
Yeah,
Godzilla.
it's just Godzilla standing there. He's taking it. It's a selfie. It's a selfie. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, so we have a whole bunch of those ones, right? That fall into that category. A lot of nuclear secret projects, which makes sense, right? We get why that was going on. The Manhattan Project. I'm sure most of you know about it by now, but that thing was so departmentalized and broke up all around the country. And the reason why I connected to the Philadelphia experiment is that fact that in that same boatyard where that supposed disappearance of the Eldridge took place, there was an actual Manhattan Project, outpost right there at one of those buildings. But that was a real thing. And no one even looks at that. That isn't a conspiracy thing. But that's one group. The second group fall into what I will call Project Blue Book. Now, there's a new show. Did you know there's a new show on the History Channel called Project Blue Book?
I do not. I have not had cable TV for
Ever? Yeah.
going on 20
Yeah,
years.
me too, dude. Yeah, I haven't had it forever. But I'm going to check it out because it's got a couple of actors I like, dude. It's got Aidan Gillen, and it also has Michael Malarkey. I like both those guys. So I want to check it out, man. It might be good. I mean, sometimes they are good. Of course, based on true events, whatever. It's like the X Files, I imagine. But I call it Project Blue Book because that's the one most people know about, and it is an official governmental project. But there are so many of these actually that build up to it, and that's the reason why I mentioned Project Twinkle because I have a feeling that that's where it all started. Now, that's probably not true. There's probably something before that that it evolved into, and et cetera, et cetera. But Project Twinkle there was a whole bunch of sightings in the 20s of a green UFO flying back and across the horizon at nighttime, and it was a lot of reports came into the Pentagon, right? And so they sent a team down. They call it Project Twinkle to go and observe and try to understand what it was. And since then, we've had so many projects come along. And of course, Project Blue Book being one that they announced and talk about in the early 50s. You can go find interviews with military staff talking about Project Blue Book. So it's not a very secret thing. But there's so many little projects that dealt with understanding, finding, and locating UFOs. Of course, encompasses the whole Foo Fighter thing of World War II and yada, yada, yada. You guys know all about it, of course. And Project Blue Book is the most well known, and there is a very large book that is supposed to be a secret government book that has a list of all the known aliens in the galaxy. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one. Now, is Project Blue Book is directly related to the holograms, isn't it?
It might well be. I mean, it's kind of hard to sift out what is what when it comes to government projects. But once again, these are ones that they let
No,
us
no, no,
know
no. That's
about, right?
Blue Beam. It's
Now that's
Blue Beams.
Project Bluebeam is a separate issue, probably, but it might not be because Project Bluebeam is all about creating a hoax, right? It's about red flagging the world, and it got supposedly leaked out. But I kind of the reason I say it's connected is because I think they're all the same thing, dude. I think this is all a bunch of bunk, and they're just trying to keep your attention, because they understand the mentality of humans, right? Which
Sure.
brings us to the last group of these type of government projects that I ran into, and of course, it's I think has direct connection to the what we just talking about as far as propaganda goes, and of course that is ultimately the Manchurian Candidate type of project, and there are a lot of them, dude. You got Mannequin, you got Monarch, you got a Montauk. There's so many. There's so many of these things. And this is legitimate, and it's not just America. The Germans, the Russians, and all kind of governments around the world, I'm sure, we're working on this kind of technology because it's a real thing. You can warp a mind to such a way that you can get them to do your bidding. And here's an interesting thing I did during my research that I didn't know before. model, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. A lot of the early ones, particularly the ones with the German researchers, which of course became the American researchers with Project Paperclip, of course, that they believed that the Caucasian people in general, particularly the Rh negative folks, were the easiest to manipulate and control, and a lot of the research was done specifically into that group because of some kind of research that we don't know about. We don't have the information anyway regarding Rh negative people, which I am one of, by the way.
Oh, gross.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, what do you think about that though? That little sliver of it, the fact that they go after these kind of projects, which are real, right? And they mainly think Caucasians are the easiest ones to do with this, particularly Rh negative people. There's a genetic element to it.
I always knew Jessica Fletcher was the really manipulated bitch.
You got to watch out for her, man. She ain't no joke, dude. This is the yes. By the way, I'm sure many of you were saying, "Where's the Denzel Washington?" Screw that. We're going original. We're going old school, baby. All right. Anyway.
Well, I definitely I think that there's definitely a case to be made for, let's say, like European Caucasians in general. So
Yeah,
what
the
you would call
Celts.
white.
Yeah, whites.
There we have a lot of differences psychologically than other races.
Hmm.
And a lot of it has to do with a different type of empathy. Now, we white people seem to always be willing to never look out for their best interests, or it's almost like
Yeah.
this sense of compassion that is almost to an extreme. So, as far as being able to manipulate whites into certain behaviors, I could definitely see you could make a case for it, because even with the social programming that goes on, whereas other cultures just won't, they'll just be like, no, we're not going to put up with it. But here in the United States, and especially among the whites, you see this, how easy it is with the pop culture, with propaganda, with media
White guilt.
to guilt, and then you've got the outrage and all these different factions, and it seemed we do seem to be a very easily manipulated people.
Mm. Yeah, it is interesting. Because I didn't know about that. Of course, I knew all about these little projects. Project Mannequin's probably the one I know that I've heard the most about. But because that's the one that really led us into Monarch, right? But I didn't know about the genetic aspect, which was mainly the Germans that had brought that in. But it was one that was carried over. That was pretty fascinating to me, and I agree with you. Every racial group has their own advantages and disadvantages, right? I mean, it just is what it is. And I'm talking at the meta level, as in the Caucasoid, Negroid, and Mongoloid, right? And of course, I would kind of agree that the natives of Central and South America are their own little isolated demographic. But whatever, we'll go to the standard three. And then they all are very different. They have strengths and weaknesses, both physically and mentally. And of course, then you can break it down to little sub classes of those three main groups, often, and even the crossovers between them. And you can find advantages and disadvantages. And I just never really thought about that. But the interesting thing about the Caucasoid people, particularly the Celtic peoples, because keep in mind, for all of you absolute rubber-minded people out there, Indian people, Arabic people, those are Caucasians. Yeah, they're all we come from them. You do know that, right? But the interesting thing about the Celts, however, the Who whites, as you put it, um, they are have a little bit of mystery to them in the fact that we don't know what makes up their genetic heritage. The other racial groups, we know at least what we've classified as this human, and this human type, or a hominid. Let's just use the word hominid. These hominid types came together, and this is an amalgam of it. right? But with the Celtic peoples, which I know is a misnomer, I get it. For any of you who's screaming at the screen, I get it. But it's easy. Everyone gets Celt. All right. But with the Celtic people, however, there is a missing element. See, we know we have the Homo erectus, which is more than likely the African stuff. We have the Homo neanderthalis, damn it, I can't speak today, but you know what I mean, Neanderthal. Um, we
Oh,
have
you
that.
did it. You can't say Neanderthal.
I'm
You have
sorry,
to say
dude. I'm having trouble. Anyway, Neanderthal in us, but there's a third element in our DNA, which seems to be quite ubiquitous across when it comes to genetics. Actually, this whole thing of three, but that we don't know about. We haven't identified it. We don't know what it is, and it's an important one. Whereas the Asians have the Decinovans, right? Which clearly that's where they got their the yellow pallor to their skin and the almond eyes and all this kind of stuff obviously came from the Decinovan influence. We got the bones and stuff, but of course we don't know what they really look like, but clearly they kind of look like the Asians. That's where they come from. But we don't know where our other piece of us comes. We are missing a third of ourselves. So it is kind of interesting, and that Rh negative thing is pretty interesting as well. But that's a bit off top. We're getting a little bit off topic, but I just thought it was fascinating. What do you think about this conversation, Slick? Slick?
I think it's interesting. I think verification is always needed.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And that's kind of the problem. We don't really get verification where we need it, and we get oversaturated where we don't. It's just kind of the way it goes, right? It's just it never seems to be what it should be. But anyway, I'm going to check out the chat real quick, but I do want you two guys to kind of answer the question. I have put the Black Book project or Black Op projects into three categories: nuclear science based, UFO based, extraterrestrial stuff, and mind control based. Those are the three categories I feel that they all fall into. Do you guys agree or disagree, or you want to amend that or what have you?
No,
Um,
I think that covers the basics of it. I don't. I think all of the UFO and space stuff is a fraud.
Yeah.
So you can wipe all that out. That's nonsense.
Okay.
I think you're missing like metaphysical research.
Well,
Um,
the
mm,
paranormal stuff,
mm,
where you want to put, there was a lot of that.
I'm not
Talk.
talking about ghosts and stuff. I'm talking about like
what
levels
we
of
talked about last
reality.
week, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I get you. Well, I kind of put that underneath of the mind control, Manchurian Candidate. Actually, in my mind, I threw it all underneath there, right? So,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if I would delineate that in the same sentence. That's me. So
Okay, okay, that's cool. I can appreciate that. Eric Hawkins over here in the chat is totally off topic. You're a bad boy, sir. When he says Muppets, then why haven't we had a Muppet DNQFE? Well, I say we should. I say we should. I would be terrified to see what Ink Spots would do with poor Miss Piggy, but might be fun. Uh,
I'm gonna postulate that the theory, the tinfoil hat theory, that Muppets aren't actually puppets, but they're real.
I don't know. I know he's trying to be ironic and mysterious, but it didn't work. It just kind of sucks. Like you got to work on that, man. You got to do better. You got to do better.
I'm just saying. Nobody's ever seen the bottom half of them.
Oh, that's true. Okay, all right. He's got a point. I stand corrected. Ray Thulu's in here. Always happy to have him. We got Willie Mammoth in here, dude. Awesome. I haven't seen you talk to him in forever. My sexy midget searches never show up as sponsored ads. Ah. Drones. Yeah, there's a bunch of actually the drone projects that we have today actually started way back in the 40s, dude. coming, especially after the war with the V rockets and stuff. Beowulf, I don't know what that means, but I love Beowulf. Men in Black, yeah, that's right, of course. Let's see, Eric Hawkins is saying hello. They're all saying hello to each other. All right. Curious 2A says Ross Perot had a story about black helicopters. It made him drop out of the presidential run for a while. Yeah, I actually liked Ross Perot. He was just too analytical for the public. The people don't elect actual smart people these days. It's all a popularity contest. It's all about the pretty boy. It's the same jock crap we had in school. But there it is. And that's blame John F. Kennedy for that, by the way.
Well, I do remember specifically he did make a claim that his family was threatened, so there was some shenanigans going on there.
Most certainly was. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Eric Eric Hawkins says, "I'm sorry, Chester. I cannot allow you to speak of Project Twinkle. I will have to inform my overlords if you do." Dude, I'm not joking at all. I'm really not. As far as my research, now, when I use the word research, I don't go so depth. I only spend a few hours on it through the week, but in everything I looked at it, I couldn't find anything earlier than Project Twinkle, right? Unless you want to talk about President George Washington's account of seeing a landed UFO and little green men coming out of it. I am not joking, by the way. George Washington has an account like that. That's the earliest American one I could find. Well, no, that's not true. There was an account with Christopher Columbus coming across the ocean, of course. There was an account on the night of the birth of Peregrine White, who was the first American, United States of America born person, back with the Mayflower and such. I don't know. You guys know anything earlier than that when it comes to America? I'm pretty sure Project Twinkle is the earliest one I could find.
I'm sure there's stories from Native Americans, but
Yeah,
Well, I
that's
mean,
true. I'm talking about the
and
Europeans though, but
yeah.
I would say that like some of the Masonic stuff has been floating around there for a long time. They're
yeah, that's fair. That
what
is fair.
they're doing their clandestine this and that, and the other lodges and stuff. Uh, but
The
that's
wolf
not. I don't know if it's government, but maybe it's government mixed in. I mean, but there's always been that,
Yeah,
accusations and
of
rumors
course.
floated.
That is a whole nother conversation we've touched on a little bit we could do, but I will tell you this as far as what I know to be true. If there's ever the shit ever hits the fan, go to your local lodge, because what the Masons actually do is help. They're extremely helpful people. So if you find yourself in a really tight situation or something really goes bad, go find the lodge, because that will be one of the safest places you could be.
No, I'm not accusing like lodge members of the Masons at all. I mean, I
No,
know
no, I
several,
get it.
and
It's
but
very
I mean,
standard conspiracy theory. I get it. Yeah.
but we're talking about how far it goes back. Well,
Yeah.
the Masons go back to the Templars, to blah 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 blah.
That's true. And it's very fascinating stuff. Let's see. Saturn, Willie Mammoth says, moon with more water than on Earth. Moons with more water than on Earth. Yeah, I think so, flying saucer. But do keep in mind, this project was like in the late 50s, early 60s, right? So we had not been supposedly into space yet, but they knew that Saturn was the place to go. Right? I mean, it's just a little offhand. And if you go back and look at a lot of the early stuff that was going on from, I'd say, from the 20s to the 50s, right? There's a lot of comments that come out of the American government that I think they didn't really see the big picture of what the future would become. And as far as the opening of the information age, and I think they kind of dropped a lot of things that they probably would have kept in their mouth if they had thought about it, right? Maybe, or it could just be
Well,
very,
they couldn't
very clever.
anticipate the technology, optics on consumer cameras
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way they could foresee that.
Yep.
So they had a good run for a while.
They did. They did. And Critical Blast says Saturn, god of time and father of the gods. That's right. He's the big one. Chernobyl was wildlife. Okay, has wildlife. It does. They're mutated horribly, but they live. Joe says it's pronounced nuclear. Nuclear. Thank you very much.
Nuclear.
I said atomic, by the way. Oh boy, you're getting into my recent obsession. Was Russia a threat after World War II? Well, dude, they weren't a threat. We know because of all the documentation that came out of this in the collapse of the Soviet Union. They weren't a threat at all. It was kind of laughable. Right now, what we don't know is how much of that America knew, but I can't believe they didn't know it 100%. I mean, because if you're a government and you're posing a threat, you're going to gain as much information as you can on that threat. And seeing as our technology and ability was way beyond theirs, I'm sure they must have known, right? That's the only mysterious thing. That's the only questionable thing. Russia being a non-threat is not. Hmm.
Well, and Patton wanted to go in and
Oh
just
God.
take care of Russia,
And they
get
shut
them
him
get
down.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they shut
they
him down.
killed him
Oh,
probably.
yeah.
Well, MacArthur did too in the East. I
Yep.
mean, like with China and Russia, he wanted to move forward, and they put the kibosh on him.
Yep, they did. They did. Yep, they shut him down. So I mean, there was a plan in place, right? I don't know if it was cooperative one with the Soviet Union or not, because that's a potential too. That's a tinfoil talk conversation. Was Russia in on it, right? But no, they did put the kibosh on MacArthur quite a bit, and that's I would say was the end of our last true generals. I mean, Roman style generals was MacArthur. Everything ever since has been just this political, government controlled person, right? Even though they're called Mad Dog, which is badass, I give you that. I don't think they have anywhere near the cut of the jib that old MacArthur or Patton or Nimitz or any of those guys had. I ended it with Nimitz because I said jib.
And they don't have near the influence, of
No,
like an Eisenhower or something like that.
Well, Eisenhower had the diplomatic,
he was.
political
He was
chops.
political. Yeah,
Other than those guys, they were much more. Those guys were much more military soldier. They were soldiers as opposed to Eisenhower, who he slid right in to the political role very easily.
he did.
Even before he became president, when he was over operations in the European theater.
Hmm. Yeah, and there's an interesting connection with Eisenhower, just so we don't get too far away from our conversation, in regards to Project Blue Book, because it is mentioned in those files and conversations that Eisenhower actually met with aliens at a secret base, I think Area 51, which is why Broom Lake became so important. But just as an aside, uh, let's see. The Soviets back then were the new Nazis. Yeah, I believe they were. He also says, well, he is a sexy beast gesture. Those shirtless pics of him. Yeah, Putin's badass, dude. Comic Book Bob has to say. Let's see here. The Russians still want those launch codes. I guess they do, Roger. Critical Blast says Chernobyl is named after the weed that grows there. We call it wormwood. Dun dun
Now,
dun.
the Russians did do some really shady rewriting of history, though,
I'm
and
sure.
faking photographs, historical records, and things like that.
Yeah, and satyrs shall dance there indeed. Critical Blast. Critical Blast got some nice little comments. I'm liking it. Joe says, and the most dangerous project of all, the Alan Parsons Project.
That is true.
That is fair. That is fair. Well, they do have an eye in the sky. Yeah, well, they've had those for quite a while, unless you're into the flat Earth and believe that there's no such thing as a satellite. Or I don't know, do they screw them into the glass dome? I don't know. Maybe they use big old giant sucker cups. They could. You could create enough surface tension with a gigantic sucker cup to hold up some pretty big stuff, I'd say. Mhm. I wasn't joking, by the way. I'm serious.
I
William
believe.
Mammoth says we have a UFO crash site here on Canada's east coast, Nova Scotia's Shag Harbor incident. That's right. That's right. Yep. And of course, Project Blue Book is all about UFO stuff. And I think the question, as soon as I get done with the chat here, I'm going to ask these guys a question, and that question is very simple: how much do you think the American government believes in alien life? Not you personally, but the American government. Let me catch up with the chat though. They're very serious about it. That was funny. That was funny. Monarch was the agency in that underrated television series Dark Skies. Yeah, was. But Monarch was a real project that was it really kind of brought to the forefront the whole Manchurian Candidate process. Because understand that's a real thing. Many countries have tried to create it and use it. You can break a mind and rebuild it to do as you want. This is not a joke. It's not a conspiracy theory. I think it's disgusting. Why would you do that to anybody? I mean, honestly. When we talk about ethical research, I mean, come on, right? Booster's in here. He says Caucasoid. He thinks that's funny. So
Booster
simple-minded.
is an Australoid.
Yeah, right. Actually, Chester, thank you very much. I say that too much, I guess. Celts came from potatoes. I'm Irish, I know. There you go. Homo Neanderthal. Gross. So Hindus are Aryans. Yes, they actually are. That's where the word Aryan comes from. No. Yes. And that's why do you think they use the swastika? They really ruined the swastika. You know, they had a meeting here in Japan, and Japan actually grew some balls. I was very happy about this about a year ago. Here in Japan, of course, if you use Google Maps or any kind of map that you get from the convenience store or what have you, it's going to have listed on that map all kind of things, and of course, they make it very English friendly, obviously. And of course, on those maps, you'll see a lot of little marks of swastika. They're just written all over the place, and it's like, what is that? Well, it's a temple. The temple location, right? And of course, the government came out, being government and toothless. They said we should probably change this because people are coming for the Olympics and they might be offended. And the Japanese people stood up and said no. So if you come to Japan during the Olympics, which well, who knows if it's going to happen with Corona-chan running around, but if you come over here and you get a map, you're going to find swastikas all over it. Isn't that wonderful? That's a
Oh
wonderful
boy.
story.
And it's going to be a long time before the toothbrush mustache makes a comeback, I think.
And maybe
Well,
Japanese liked it at the time.
just call it the Charlie Chaplin mustache.
That's true.
Sure.
There you go. And he was a communist as well.
Indeed.
Yep. And Booster says Chester is a bloody muppet. All right. Thank you, Booster. That's very nice.
We've never seen Chester's lower half.
That's right. You never have. Who knows whose hand is up my ass right this moment? Right this
That's right.
moment. All right. Rhodamus.
I think Chester's actually Alf. I really do.
Oh goodness gracious! I don't know if I've ever had cat. I might have accidentally. I do live in Asia. Rhodamus Flash says Project Twinkle. What does Boy George have to do with this? Hey now.
Project Twinkle Toes.
Comedian.
Project Lighten a
There's a song
Loafers.
I can go the rest of my life with never hearing again.
Thank you. Yeah, no, they overplayed the hell out of that in the 80s. That is true. Nick C says, did you know your government's biggest kept secret is Booster Kiwi is a very own show every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? Thank you very much, Nick. A little bit of promotion there for him. Did you know that there was a Project Kiwi? No. And you know what it was? You know what it was about? I already talked about it. Remember that thing I was talking about, the Empire State Building project and using nuclear blasts to send it in space? That was called Project Kiwi, which is the idea of getting a flightless bird off the ground. I guess was the the imagery. So Booster is involved in American history, and that's the way it goes.
What's interesting, Chester, is that these agencies are never that sneaky with their the names of their operations.
No, they're not.
They always use Goliath, fishbowl, high jump.
Right. That the flat Earth stuff is fun, but we don't do too much of that because Google is very upset when we talk about flat Earth. Just understand that they don't like flat Earth conversations. It's weird that one really got under their craw. We have many TFTs where they'll put that little Encyclopedia Britannica link down below or Wikipedia link down below, right? But the flat Earth one got a lot of flack, right? I mean, they were. Why did that one upset them so much? I don't know.
Flat Earth, the Holocaust, and 9/11 make Google go insane.
All right. Well, Holocaust next week and 9/11 the week after. All right, there I go.
Get ready to be the last episodes of the show.
I had,
just say it like this: Planet Terra. which means flat Earth in Spanish. They'll never notice.
There you go. There you go. The plate. Yeah, all right.
So
But when I was many many years ago, I was playing this really cool MMO called City of Heroes. Great, one of the best MMOs ever, man. But I had one of my coolest characters, and it had top level characters I had in there. His name was Holocaust Hammer. Because he's a fire guy that swings a hammer around. It made sense to me. I got a lot of flack for that. You can't use the word Holocaust. It's out of bounds. I'm like, why not? It makes sense. It's a Holocaust, which is a destruction and fire hammer. He's a fire guy with a hammer. Holocaust hammer.
It's one of those historical subjects that some countries you can't even talk about.
No, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Especially
you
because
can't
the
say
Jews
anything.
were talking about Holocaust and 6 million dead a good 100 years before the war. No,
You can't talk
really?
about it. You can't talk about it at all in Germany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
They'll
well,
put you in
the
jail.
Germans are a bunch of fascists. How ironic that in trying so hard not to become fascist, they became fascist. Maybe it's just in their frickin' DNA, you know? Because I'm an actual Celt, like a Northern Celt, a Gaelic Celt. Well, I got Nordic Celt in me too. But those Angles and those Saxons, those bastard Germans, they're the enemy, dude. They are most certainly the enemy. And I cannot tell you how much it irks me that over here in Japan, everybody looks at anybody who's white as being an Anglo-Saxon. And anytime they see you, they want to, oh, I'm going to try to speak English. So they come up and they try to talk English. And somewhere in the conversation, the fact that you were an Anglo-Saxon comes up, and oh my God, I want to hit someone because I am not an Anglo-Saxon. They're bastards.
They saw your Anglo saxophone.
Oh God, yeah. Well, it is built by a German. You're right. Yeah. Anyway, I was just trying to catch up with the chat here. I don't know why Booster's in the chat and not over here with us, but whatever. 9/11 and Holocaust, something to look forward to. Yeah, no, we're definitely going to talk about them. I don't know about the Holocaust as much, and we could, but 9/11 we got to talk about. That's the penultimate TFT, right? I just been really wary about it because it'll probably turn into 2 or 3 show series, I imagine. And I know with the reaction from the Google regarding the flat Earth stuff, and we just had a good laugh about it, right? But with that reaction, damn, they're just going to come on us hard about 9/11, dude.
They will. Yeah,
Yeah.
they absolutely will. Sandy Hook is another one that just makes Google insane and YouTube.
Yeah. Well, the problem is Sandy Hook is fishy. There's definite
Oh,
evidence there that something weird was going on.
all evidence points to that school wasn't even an operating facility.
No, and actually, it looks like it wasn't even open. Yeah, you're right. So I mean,
Storage.
it's nasty. Nick C said Chester's an Anglo-Saxon. Oh my God, dude! I will send that bare ass Naruto looking freaking booster at your ass. I will do it, dude. I will. Do not tempt me. Anyway, Cryptic Screwed City of Heroes, just like they did Neverwinter. Yeah, unfortunately, dude, you're right, Ray Thulu. And it was too bad because it was still making money. But we have City of Titans coming. We also have Ship of Heroes, and we have Valiant, Vigilant. There's another one. But they're coming, and we'll see how they work out. And of course, we've also had the unauthorized. Seed or kernel of City of Heroes show up a couple times, but they keep trying to hammer it down. Anyway, triangulating on Nick's location now. Thank you very much, Booster. Take care of that. All right, so I've caught up with the chat 100% best I could. Of course, we want to keep you guys involved in the conversation, but I want to come back over and have this conversation with these guys because I think this is the crux of the conversation today. Because we get into little projects and stuff, and I think I might do that in a moment. But the real point for me is how much do you think the American government actually believes about it in regards to aliens and stuff like that? The supernatural, the paranormal, the beyond normal. What do you think, Slick?
Well, I think that they would be interested in something that might concern them or have an influence on them. So yeah, I think they'd go into that. But again, I'm a guy who likes verification, and when I see most of this stuff, I'm the skeptic. All right, I'm the Scully. All right, I'm not the
Hmm.
Mulder. Um, because I want to see it. But then again, I'm a type of guy who believes in things that could be outside the bounds. I totally believe that there could be things, but until I, start believing it, I need to see verifiable evidence. Of course, there's this there's this part of me that says maybe when I see verifiable evidence that's been tainted, or the stuff that I've been totally snowed by, pop culture and the mainstream uh, party line, which is could be propagandist, and that's what I've been fed all my life. So I might not know anything. So I tend to be the old adage: the more I know, the less I know. That sort of thing.
Yeah, it's fair.
So I'm open, but I do before I put it into my own worldview, my own cosmology. I got to have enough evidence for me to sink my teeth in and shake it around a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's fair. And of course, it reminds me. I can't remember his name for some reason, but who was that? Who was that Greek philosopher that said that the worst thing you can do to gain knowledge is to read a book? Um, and of course, he wrote that in a book, by the way. But, okay, it starts with an H.
Yeah.
Damn it. Anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, fair point.
Heraclitus.
Maybe.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the quote. I mean, it's unfamiliar. So
Yeah, no, I can't think offhand, but yeah, it's an interesting quote, and of course there's some truth to it. What do you think what do you think their model?
The as far as aliens, no, I don't think huge, so I don't think they put too much into that.
Hmm.
It's very useful though to distract. So I do think that yeah, there has been money. As far as other aspects of that, I think they put a lot into it. The more mystical stuff, the remote viewing. Of course, you said like the like shattering and splitting people's brains and their psyches.
Oh yeah,
They absolutely did that. So and Jimmy's right. I mean, it's really hard, especially now with the amount of information we have access to. It's very hard to parse it all.
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's,
totally.
yeah, and of course
And we have an over. Sorry, we have an overabundance of information now. I mean, it's just there's so much coming from so many different directions, and there are so many false prophets, false narratives, and you have to kind of sift and parse through it and glean out what you can about. And half the time, the only thing you can really know about is your own lived experience. Not to get into that sort of whole thing, but you know, it's really tough because, and we're going to have come a day when what we see will not be able to be trusted at all on media.
yeah,
Nope.
that's a
That,
problem. That's a big problem, dude.
and
Yeah,
it's coming just right around the corner where we're going to have deepfakes and we won't know what's going on where.
yeah, that's fair. And
And we're
but
probably there. The stuff is probably already
it's probably already
has
been there for
happened.
a while. Yeah, that's true. Well, I do have an announcement, though. I have an announcement. If you guys take a look up and you look in the sky, blazing in through the atmosphere, fire shooting all around, riding upon a handmade of moon rocket self surfboard, lightning rippling across his tauntness. It is Thundero.
My tauntness. I
Yes,
like it.
you're
I'm
welcome.
very taunt. I like being taunted.
Chester, we really need to do something about my intro because
It's an ongoing thing, though, dude. How long can I keep it up? How long can I keep it fresh? I don't know, dude. It's getting rough. I mean, I
And
just pulled out a frickin'
the
moon rock
stores,
surfboard. Where the hell am I gonna go from there, right?
moon rods. There's a good one. Hello,
Mm,
everybody. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm late. I'm real late. I don't know how
that's all
much
right.
longer you guys are gonna go for, but
You like the white rabbit, man.
Hey, yeah.
no, I had to be an adult and go to the grocery store and do adult things for a while.
Well, so actually,
Adulting,
it's
out
kind of perfect.
adulting.
It is kind of perfect timing, actually. Sorry, Slick. Because we're gonna look at a web page here in a moment, so it's perfect timing. But since you're here, I want you to answer the same question I asked these guys. How much do you think the government, not the people, the government itself, believe in the hype they throw out?
It depends which branch of the government, because the government isn't a monolith. It's huge, and
That's
it's.
fair. That is
I
fair.
told, I told somebody recently that our government's more powerful than any government to ever exist by far,
Oh God, yeah.
and it's huge. It's bigger than the Soviet Union. It's massive. The deep state is deep, hence the name. And so one branch, like your surface level bureaucracies and the stuff we vote for, um, probably nothing really. I mean, nothing of any merit. As far as how deep it might go into the black stuff and into the beyond black stuff, the stuff that they don't even have names for, I would say very. Simply because that if there is anything going on, they want to be able to, you know, be in front of it.
That's
If
fair.
you listen to some people, they not only know about it, but they work with whether that you want they'd still be technically aliens, but they'd be extra dimensional beings, um, because it would be impossible to travel the distances that they claim space is. So the only way that there could be extraterrestrials is through dimensions, through
Ooh,
traveling
you went
reality.
Tessarian on me. Sweet.
Yeah. So it just depends on who you believe and what you listen to. What I honestly think is that if there is anything extraterrestrial as far as intelligent life, which there probably is, I mean, let's be real, they know about it, and at least they know enough about it to know to keep it secret. Because I think Men in Black's version of Men in Black is correct. The world simply is not ready for that information.
Yeah,
If
maybe.
tomorrow they came out with, oh yeah, well, we're basically nothing, and there's beings far more powerful and advanced than we are, well, people would start worshiping like them like gods because people are idiots.
That's true. Well,
So,
yeah, I mean that's a fair point you make there because keep in mind this: what if I posit this absolutely terrifying conception?
mm,
What if the aliens are as stupid as we are?
exactly.
Oh
So one
my!
of the things that's terrifying is imagine beings with extra dimensional beings which would have unbelievable power if they could do that, and they're not any more advanced really than the smartest people. And like morally, they're basically just like humans as far as how they behave,
Yeah,
which is funny because that's what a lot of the ancients, besides the Abrahamic religions, the gods were that. They were just really powerful people, basically,
yeah, they were
and they were
aliens.
flawed,
Yeah.
and they would rape women, and
Oh,
they
they're
were terrible.
horrible. They're horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean that is an interesting point you make up because when it comes down to Hollywood, they always portray the aliens in one or two ways, right? They're either
Mhm.
this hostile force that's come to take over the planet, which it doesn't make sense the way they do it. Now, I'm going to say the most sacrilegious thing ever, and I know people are going to start throwing heavy objects at their computer screens. But Independence Day is a dumb movie, right?
Terrible
It's
movie.
a dumbass movie because if you go and use your brain at all, which I'm not saying you should. I mean, most Hollywood movies just shut your brain off and eat your popcorn. I get it. But
Right.
if you actually pay any attention to Independence Day at all, that's the dumbest thing ever. You have a gigantic ships coming in that have force fields you can't even dream about getting through. Why would they have little flying ships? Why would they need it? I mean, you could go on ad nauseum on that frickin' movie, how dumb it is.
I actually walked out of that movie.
It's so stupid. Although it is fun. I get it. It's fun. Will Smith, F yeah, I get it. But it's a dumbass movie. But Hollywood always portrays aliens either like that, which doesn't make any logical sense, or
Mhm.
it acknowledges them as utopian, which once again, if they were utopian, one of the problems with utopia is that there's no motivation behind it, right?
Yes.
Therefore, you don't end up doing anything or going anywhere, right? Matter of fact, one of my stories I'm hoping to bring into the fore here, at least with the cosmology, is the original superpower found magic and they created this utopia for themselves and they just abandoned everything for just
Yeah.
eons, right?
It's a fairly common thing in a lot of deep fantasy. The like the elves or whatever. the elder race is so powerful.
Yeah,
They've created utopia, and they just stop caring about anything
that's
because they
right.
don't think anything can
So
challenge them.
therefore, what that means, Thundero, is the original penners of alien stories, the Sumerians themselves, were much more accurate because they wrote the aliens as being just horrible people.
Yeah.
Horrible.
And
Yeah.
why wouldn't you be? I mean, think about it for a second. Humans have proven that when we have more power, we're horrible.
Oh yeah.
The more power a group has over another group, well, guess what happens to the other group? Except for in extreme cases like, Christian countries. One of the only great things about Christianity, in my opinion, is that it teaches charity to such a strong degree. It came right from Jesus's mouth
Hmm.
that that doesn't. Oh, sometimes it does, but it's not supposed to happen in Christianity, right? You're supposed to be charitable to the weak, but all throughout history, that's not been reality. As soon as somebody was stronger, they would dominate the other.
Oh
So
yeah.
why wouldn't a creature who is vastly more maybe not intelligent, but more powerful than us, whether through technology or just their natural being, yeah, of course they're going to be oppressive. But they don't see us as equals. They see us like animals. How do
Yeah.
we treat animals? I mean, even animals that are incredibly intelligent, we treat them like crap.
That's
Look
right.
at dogs and stuff. They're smart as the smartest dogs, as smart as a 3-year-old human being.
I don't know. My dog's pretty stupid. He licks his balls all
Well,
day long.
but still, people treat them like crap. And
Yeah.
to this day, you'll have people who will say, "Just a dog. Who cares?"
Well, dude,
Okay,
and
well,
Well,
even
it depends on the dog. Irish setters are freaking idiots. Well, they're
yeah,
quite
that's right.
beautiful.
Dalmatians are pretty dumb too. But and another even better example, Thundera, is Michael Jackson because when he beats it, gang members just spread out of the way.
If anybody beats it, I'm getting out of the
Come
way.
on, dude, that was funny. Come on, Marty. You can go ahead. Give me a smile. Let me hear it.
I'm laughing. You can't
hang
tell?
on, hang on,
I
I
can.
gotta
It
answer
was
Nick.
funny.
See, he retracted his message. I seen it, Nick. You can't hide it from me. He asked if I think Barry Allen was the best Flash. No, I think Barry Allen is the Flash, and everybody else is a poser to Barry Allen's throne. There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, amen, brother. Yeah, amen. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know but that whole debacle going on. But anyway, all right. So and now I've asked everyone that question, and they all kind of well, it was interesting answers. But let's take a moment here, and this I found a website I want to go take a look at, and I thought it might be just kind of interesting to look at this subject overall because we are talking about the government's little black books, right? And that's a plural there, right? Mhm. So let me come over here and bring this back up. Now, is this the one? Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, here it is. Government Black Book Projects I typed in. It's very simple little, and of course I use the DuckDuckGo now because you guys suggested that it was cleaner, which it is. So I think that was Todd Mulrooney that suggested that to me. Actually, I can't remember, but it does work better in Google. I thank you very much for that. And and I can control my what I view here. I like that very much because I've had a couple. I had way back in the early days of the internet. There were a couple of shocking moments, man. I had my daughter sitting on my lap. Right, and we were using the computer. I can't remember what it was, but it was one of those ones you buy. Then everything was in the box, literally inside the monitor. Compact, I think it was called compact.
Hmm.
But nice little computer, worked pretty well. Anyway, I had my daughter sitting on my lap, and we were searching for Cardcaptor Sakura. I think was what she was really big into at that time. It was a cute little show, right? It's kind of a Sailor Moon-esque, I'd say. Anyway, I'm sitting there doing my search and just looking for Cardcaptor Sakura stuff, and the most vile pornography I'd ever seen in my life popped up. And of course, I quickly get rid of it. But I mean, why can't I sit and enjoy the internet with my daughter without having smut in front of me all the time? Now, I'm not a Puritan. You can do whatever the hell you want to do, but I shouldn't have to. And that's one thing I do like about DuckDuckGo is it the moderating aspect of it. I can not have to deal with that crap. Anyway, sorry. But there are a bunch of little things here on that Project Blue Book, of course, the Black Vault, et cetera, all kind of stuff. And then, of course, the Black Vault is what caught my eye. So let's take a look at it. Let's go look at it. Let's go over here. This is somebody's website. I don't know whose website it is. I'm assuming there might be something I could contact them. We could contact them, but let's not do that. So, the Black Vault, exposing government secrets one page at a time. Now, this one seems to be pretty popular because there's a lot of websites that actually reference this website. So, inside of this, I don't know, conspiracy world, I guess. This is actually an actual place that is respected. I don't know what that means, but it is. Anyway, what we've got here, we got case files, UFOs, and the unknown, declassified documents, 2,165,772 pages online. That would take a while. And message forums are open. Okay. So we got three choices here, gentlemen. Booster's not here, so I don't have to say ladies. So which one would you like to go? Sorry, I had to throw a little bit out there.
Well, you should always start at the start. So pick the first one.
Oh, there we go. All right. And I click on it. So let's see here. So it's news. It's up-to-date news. This is cryptozoology right at the top. Let's see here. Project Blue Book cases. Ooh. We're getting a bunch of stuff. Here we go. We can look at the top news. So this is pretty interesting. They're fairly not busy. What is this? January, December. Yeah, I guess they put out some stuff every week or a couple of weeks, I guess. But anyway, what do we got here? We have the Kenneth Arnold sighting, Mount Rainier, Washington, June 24th, 1947. Yep, that's a pretty famous one. I know that one. Unknown triangular object in Apollo 9 photograph over Chusca Mountain, Arizona. That's interesting. Can I click? I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on that one. Now, this is from an Apollo image. Now, is this the Black Knight they're talking about here?
I don't know. It's possible.
You can download the file even. Oh.
Ooh.
I think this is the Black Knight thing, isn't it?
It looks like it. Looks an awful lot like the same shape.
I don't know. All they do is show us that's not very good. You kind of got to tell us about it. The attached photograph was found by Black Vault users Willies. They have created a large thread on the Black Vault messaging forum and have posted a massive amount of space anomalies they have found. By painstakingly going through thousands of photographs, this is one of them. You have to give it up to autism, dude. It is an amazingly powerful thing, dude.
Superpower.
It is superpower. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that doesn't help me at all. What's that picture supposed to be for? Okay, all right, thank you. It's not what I wanted. God. All right, so that looks like the Black Knight. Now, what do you guys think about the Black Knight thing? Now, keep in mind that they put a little bit of connection to the Black Knight to Tesla himself, because Nikola Tesla had put out a whole paper talking about the fact that when he was doing his radio tests and things, he found an object transmitting in orbit, right? And a lot of people attach that to the Black Knight. What do you guys think about the Black Knight?
I think it's very strange, at the very least. There's a lot of pictures of it, and for some reason, we've never went to it. It's been there. Everybody knows it's there. Like, they know it's up there. So why not go to it?
Well,
Send a shuttle up.
there are several pictures behind the shuttles of it being there. So I would say, why are they near the thing so many times? And of course, officially from NASA, it's a blanket.
I think the Black Knight will bite your leg off.
That's right. Yeah, but a stretch.
Black Knight.
Yes, Monty Python in the house. But what do you think about the Black Knight model? It's just very fascinating.
Chester.
Huh?
Chester doesn't. What do I think about it? This is actually my first time hearing about it, so I think it's interesting. As I always say, it's interesting, and because I don't know about it, I really can't comment. But anything's possible.
Well, you didn't like. Anyway, what do you think, model?
I didn't like what?
Nothing. That's okay. Sorry. I'm not touching it. Model. Okay, fine. Thundero.
Apparently, I think Model might have died. I don't know what happened to him.
It's okay.
Maybe the Black Knight got him. There it is.
That's right.
Official. First case. No, I just, you're probably right. They probably have been to it. It's just weird to me because it's not like it's even really a secret, right? You can see, people know it's up there. Pretty much everybody that knows anything about this sort of stuff knows it's up there. They don't deny it's up there. They claim it's a blanket or something stupid.
They do. It's pretty hilarious.
It's just
Yeah.
a big blanket, boy.
Yeah.
Um, so why wouldn't they just go up there, and if it's just a blanket, okay, go up there and snap a couple pictures of it and move on with your life. Like, I don't understand. This is NASA's biggest problem, is they're their own worst enemy. When people see something like that, that should be NASA's like, yeah, let's go check that out. I thought that was the point of NASA, was to go check that out. So I don't understand what the big deal is. If it's just a piece of space debris, like a chunk of rock or something, okay, well, send up there and let's look at it. What's the issue?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to find it, but that's interesting because I think there's people that have captured it. But Pepsi put out a commercial some years back, and what the hell? All right, let me just see if this person, I can't find the original anymore. But look at this commercial here. I won't put it on the volume. Obviously, we'll get hit. But oh, okay, 13,000 years. He said this is not science fiction. This is real. Now, this is a Pepsi commercial. Keep this in mind. Yeah.
And Durakin, it's not anywhere near $1 billion to go up into space. Tesla's done it, or Elon Musk has done it for like 50 million. It's nothing.
Okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Okay, they were even woke back then. Oh no, something's happening. The Black Knight, the black cars. Ooh, there they are, Men in Black. All right.
Here comes the man in black.
That's a good. I like them. I like that series actually. My kids love it too. Yeah. Have you guys seen this commercial before?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is, I know it doesn't look like it, but this is a Pepsi commercial, guys. It's a long one. You know how expensive it is to put a commercial this length? This is ridiculous amount of money. So why did Pepsi do this? To just get people talking about it? Maybe. But it's kind of crazy, dude.
Well, most likely they were given money to do it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that commercial before, but I remember people talking about it. Like, I never saw it on TV or anything.
Well, dude,
I don't
it's
really watch
6 minutes long, right?
That's a
6 minutes.
long commercial.
Yeah. Well, they chopped
Holy
it
cow.
up into little pieces. It's actually like a mini short here. This is the whole version of it. But they cut it into little pieces, much tighter little tidbits of like a minute or so, minute and a half. But a very long thing to put together, and it's very weird that it's got the Pepsi on it there. And of course, look how long ago it was that you can't have one color with the other color. You got to make sure to mix them up.
Mhm.
Yeah. But we got the Arabs over here. They're taking pictures because it's important. Yay! Welcome aliens. It's coming down to Earth. We're seeing all these people welcoming the aliens. Yay! Yay! These symbols. What do they mean? Everyone's. Oh, here it is. The Black Knight's getting ready to come in. It's getting ready. Oh, there. Oh, peace. Yeah, that thing's upside down. You guys do realize that thing is upside down, right? This whole time with the damn peace symbol, it's basically praising Satan. Good on you guys. Real good. Pepsi colors. Yay, more devil symbols. More devil symbols. Bastards. Because that thing's supposed to
Well,
be facing up, right?
this whole idea of aliens either invading or showing up and uniting humanity is a theme that's been going on for decades.
It's true. It is true. Yeah. Yay, the aliens are going to be able to see this little teeny thing on this teeny stretch of beach. Yay, Pepsi colors. Once again, more of those devil symbols. He's happy. He's very happy. Come on there, Black Knight. Bring yourself back in. There you go. Oh, it's opening. It's going to destroy the planet. They have become so stupid. I must take them out. The AI says. There is only the beginning. Pepsi! Yay! Bye, Pepsi. Yeah, that is the weirdest thing, dude. But it is what it is. So, you guys never seen that before, huh?
No, I hadn't seen that.
Oh well.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Very
Haven't seen
interesting.
it. Have not been indoctrinated.
Oh, there you go. So I mean, that's kind of interesting. This one of the photos brought us to that. Let's see what else we got down here. Oumuamua. Okay, why do we have to use Polynesian words? They barely have a language. What's the point? Scouting our solar system. Okay, fine. Well, they do, dude. It's the most primitive language on the planet. You guys know that, right?
Yes, but it sounds very good off the tongue. So I'm sorry. I think it sounds beautiful. It's very musically inclined.
Wow,
And you don't agree.
that sounds intelligible to you. Kamehameha. All right, fine.
I love it.
Okay. Oh, look here. Oh no, I got to click on this one. Hold on a second. Plant life or tree on Mars or glitch. I'm going with plant life and tree. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, oh, oh. Looks like something. Looks like a structure. You know the interesting thing.
It's John Carter's sword. That's what that is. Stuck in the ground.
It could be. It could be. Well, you know the thing that's interesting about a lot of the Mars photos, there are a lot of things that look like artifacts. Mars really looks like a planet that had a cataclysm dropped upon it, and then it's just been left ever since. I mean, a lot of the
Well, just
photos.
recently, NASA was talking about that there could be evidence that on Mars there's a subterranean alien species living there. They've seen all kinds of like some of the shots from some of the telescopes and stuff.
I mean,
That's just what it looks
like a tuber race, the potato
like. Yeah, I
man.
don't know. Could be. It could be.
Huh?
So it wouldn't surprise me if eventually that was their new story, right? They've actually found like old signs of life on Mars, because a lot of these pictures, like you said, there's very strange things in them if they're from Mars, which they're probably not. But if they are, like there's things that look like from a distance like castle walls and just like really ancient structures you'd expect to see like in like a Saudi Arabian desert or something.
Well, how many times have you got to find life on Mars before they just stop saying they're searching for life on Mars?
Right, I know, right? Right? All right, it's weird, dude. The damn aliens, they're still killing them cows, man. And leave the cows alone, bastards.
Leave them cows alone.
UFO over Potter, Texas. Ghost appears in multiple photographs from Stanley Hotel. Okay, well, let's click on that one then. We're going to click on that.
That to me is more interesting. Government black stuff. What do they know about supernatural stuff? What do they know about spirits and things like this? Because there's no way, with as many people who have had ghost experiences, they haven't done deep research into it.
Yeah, no, and I see the pictures they got here. It could be just artifacts and stuff. And we do have to keep in mind that there are a lot of these things that are not actually anything. But I mentioned that myself, dude. Like I said, I was talking to my mom and dad on Skype, right? And I just saw a person walk in a frame and look right at me, look right at the camera, and I just asked, "Well, who's that?" I figured it was a guest, right? And of course, it comes out there's no one in the room, and my dad says that it happens all the time. He never sees it, but she does. So, I mean, that was a real experience for me, and I can't explain
Yeah.
it. It's no nonsense. So, therefore, what
I've
I want is scientific research.
I've had a couple of things like that. When I was living with my parents, still way back in the day, I had a buddy who basically lived there with me, and we were getting ready. We were playing like a video game, and so he was in one chair, I was in another chair, and I had a golden retriever. And we both looked over and looked down like he had just walked in between the two chairs, and he wasn't there. And we looked up at each other, and we both said, "Did you just see Sonny?" That was his name. "Did you just see Sonny walk in here?" And he was like, "Yeah, I swear I just saw Sonny walk in here." We just looked at each other, And like, okay, that's weird, and just kept playing the game. Like that kind of stuff happened to both of us from two different angles. We saw
Yeah.
the same thing. So it couldn't have just been an optical, some shadow in one of our eyes or something. We both saw the exact same thing. A dog that I still had at the time and had for 10 more years, and we both knew very well. So we knew what he looked like. It's not like it was a trick of our brain. That same gentleman, we were both going to sleep, and we looked up at the ceiling, and we saw these two red lights that just kind of looked like eyeballs, just like looking at us from the ceiling. And we both looked up and we said, what is that? Is it something from the road? Because the road was like right outside my window. When we looked out, there was nothing out there. And when we turned back around, it was gone. No idea what it was. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen, because I still to this day have no idea what it was.
Yeah, no, I think we all have experiences like that. I mean, another creepy one I have, which I don't know, this could have been a trick of the mind, but I came out of the shower and I saw my daughter sitting on the edge of the bed. Right, I had a ensuite, right, and sitting on the edge of the bed, I grabbed, so meaning I turned my eye away from her. I grabbed my shirt, which I had hanging on a hanger, sitting there right there on the edge of the closet. So I just grabbed it, turned around, she's gone. So I look down the hallway. It's a very long hallway, and she's nowhere to be seen. And it's like, "Whoa, how the hell she moved that fast?" So I went out and said, "Where's Sakura?" And my wife said, "Oh, she's outside." And I went and looked out the window, and way on down the street, playing with all the other kids, was my daughter. So it was like, what the hell was that? And I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I kind of felt like, was that her? Because she looked really skinny. She looked very white once I thought about it. And I kind of just put it out of my head. It was like just some kind of weird thing that happens to your brain sometimes, right? But then over the next several days, I kept having this reoccurring dream and it's a very weird dream. Whereas I'm walking along the side of a lake, it's winter, obviously, there's no snow on the ground, but all the trees have no leaves, right, all around this lake. The moon is so bright it's almost like daylight, but everything is black and white. It's starkly black and white. And I see my daughter ahead of me, and I go over and walk over to her, and I touch her on the shoulder. She turns around, her eyes are missing, and they're just filled with bloody sockets. Bright red blood. It's a very visual dream, right? Because it's black and white and a shock of red in the eye. And I had it several times, right? And then a week later, after this incident of seeing her sitting on the edge of the bed and then her not being anywhere near it, we took her in for her 2-year checkup, and they found she had leukemia.
Ooh.
Right. So what does any of that mean? Probably nothing. But damn if it isn't strange.
Probably your intuition that you
Maybe.
could tell something was not right.
Maybe. Yeah, it's a fair point. I'll take it. Right. But it is certainly a
ghost
weird
story.
experience. Go ahead.
So I used to, when we lived in this old mining house up in northern Minnesota, a pretty historical place. And especially for really hard times for people, hard living, cold, the mines, all that stuff. And I used to have this reoccurring dream all the time where I would have this, it was visual, because I would have this vision of, like, how an EKG meter has a line that's constantly jagged. Well,
Yeah.
I would have this visual thing where I think part of it was like sleep paralysis, because I would almost be awake, but as long as I could stay calm, relaxed, not panic, the line would stay relatively smooth. But as soon as I lost control of that, it would start to jumble up. So that happened I couldn't tell you how many times that happened. But one night I got up, went down the hall into the bathroom, and when I came back out, there was a little girl standing at the end of the hallway. The end of the hallway in this house there were 4 rooms in this upstairs place, 2 on each side, with a hallway. And all the way down at the end was my room. My parents' room is across the hall. And this little girl is standing there in front of this great big, like, wood cabinet that was built into the wall. And she was kind of like inside the cabinet. And so I just turn around and I go back in the bathroom, close the door, and I stay in there. I was about 6 years old, so it was pretty scary. But I just went in there for a while, and I came back out. There was no one there, went back to bed. And I didn't mention it for many, many years after. But I do specifically remember at one point my parents were messing around with that cabinet at the end of the hallway, and my dad was like remodeling or something, and he pulled the boards off the back of it, and there was a door that went into like a hidden room, and there was like crap all over the floor. There was like an old tattered flag. So of course, years later, I started to really worry about that. Well, at one point, I would say probably in my early 20s, I started talking about this story to my mom, and she turned white, like the blood drained out of her face.
You're rubbing your mic model.
Oh, sorry. But so I told her the story. She turns white, and it becomes something that I get fascinated with. She tells me about all this other stuff that she experienced, which is really creepy. Because I always thought that house was haunted, and I always thought there was something in the basement. But so now years after that, even now that there's Google and there's maps and all this stuff, that house is listed on the National Registry of Haunted Places.
Wow. Oh goodness.
I got one more. It was kind of like yours, Chester. So I was still a kid. I don't know, probably 13 or something like that. And my sister was living with my parents still, but she was not home. We all knew she wasn't home. She was at college or wherever she was at. And late at night, we were just watching, whatever was on TV. I don't remember. And all of a sudden, all three of us heard her yell for my mother. We heard her yell, "Mom." And she was the only one who called my mother Mom. Everybody else had a nickname for her. So we very distinctly heard that. And we all just looked at each other and said, "Did you just hear Andrea," that's her name, call for you?" And we all agreed. And my mother went and looked in her room to see if maybe she was there, and we just didn't know why or how. She wasn't there, but we all distinctly heard it. This is one of the reasons why I think a lot of like spiritual ghost stuff is just some kind of weird psionic experience.
Yeah.
Because why would a ghost have my sister's voice? Exactly like her. And trust me, my sister, if you ever heard her, you'd know her voice because she's annoying. So
Of course.
there's no doubt that's who it was.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that secret Wi-Fi we haven't found yet is getting cross signals. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, I think
Even
so, too.
dreams,
Yeah.
I think is some sort of data being, uploaded in your brain. I think.
Well, if the holographic universe is a real thing, that's easily explainable as part of it. Oh, come on, Slick. You got to give us your ghost story.
All right. Never actually met one in person, but when I was a kid, we lived in a house. It was on top of this hill in a place called Midvale, Utah. It's called Butler Hill. And it was an old Tudor house, and it was famous for one thing: somebody was murdered in the basement. Now, strangely enough, the basement never scared me, but there was a long staircase as you come in the front door and go upward. And if the lights weren't on, I swore every time. And I was a little kid, like, 5 years old, 4 to 5 when we lived there. I swore when we went up those stairs that I could hear whispers as I got up to the top. And so I didn't like going up there when I couldn't see up the thing. And I wasn't tall enough to get to the light switch, so I just wouldn't go up there. And my mom would always say, "There's nothing up there." But every time I went up there, I could hear this sound. And you could say that's the wind coming through the cracks, and there's a window at the top of the stairs. Maybe that was the case, but yeah, I didn't like it up there. And I always felt bad. So I always thought, did the murder actually happen in the basement? It didn't happen upstairs. And then they moved the body to the basement.
Creepy.
Very, very creepy.
I'm just putting this thing up here because it was mentioned in the chat as far as the geometric shapes on Saturn's poles. But it is a very interesting thing because if, of course, you take this and you put it in a three-dimensional representation, what you get is a square square box, right? And of course, a lot of the Saturnists throughout history have used the black block or the black box to represent Saturn himself. So once again, it brings up those questions of how these ancient people knew that this shape was actually on Saturn. Good question, right? And of course, if you are a plasma theorist like me, you know it's because not too long ago, in the history of humanity itself, Earth was actually in the orbit of Saturn because Saturn is actually our mother. We come out of her. Anyway, I just had to put it up there.
Or modern reality has been made to conform to some of that.
Maybe, fair point. And there's a lot of stories like that, Slick, where bad things have happened, and this is why a lot of people get upset about disclosure and such as well, right? Because I remember I was this one's a little bit different because I did rent the place because I ended up working as my first property management job was in that building, but nevertheless, they rented us this little teeny studio. My wife and I we met in Taiwan and we dated for quite a while, and we decided that we wanted to go in Hawaii and make a family. So we went over there. Of course, we had all our money very tightly saved, and we got a very small studio apartment, etc. The standard story, right? But we were living in there, and when I was started working with Centurion Security. It was my first job, and I was the nighttime supervisor, right? And the money was fine. It's not bad money. I had an opportunity to take over the management of that building I was living in. Right, so that's a much better paying job, and it comes with a free apartment, free power, all those kind of things. So I was like, okay, I'll take that. So I did. That's how I got into that business actually. But nevertheless, the apartment right across the hall was the manager's apartment. It was much bigger. Right, that was a one bedroom apartment. It's just a much bigger place, right? And of course, seeing as I became the manager, I became privy to all the knowledge of the building and all the history of the building, of course. And I came to find out that the apartment we had been living in, that little teeny studio, not even deep in the past, just the one occupant before us committed suicide in the place, and they didn't, and the renter didn't say anything to us at all. Now, my question is, seeing as we're talking about these kind of things, even though we're a little off subject, um, do you think that is that unethical to not tell people about the such things because of many people worrying about supernatural and paranormal aspects?
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's a law in the United States, isn't it?
In many
think
places it is.
you
I
have
think it's
to
by state.
Yeah, you have to
You
disclose
have to
like a
disclose
murder.
any
And,
deaths in the house. Yeah.
You would think so. They didn't tell us
In
anything.
fact, I'm trying to remember when we bought our house. I think they disclosed that to us anyway. I don't think there was any in our house, but I'm pretty sure you could ask them to get that information for you. It's
Maybe
not
be,
hard to find.
maybe it was
Public record.
because it wasn't a murder though. It was a suicide.
yeah, I know that that's included here. That they have to disclose that to you.
Yeah, my wife was not pleased, dude.
Oh, I'm sure. I wouldn't.
I didn't care, but yeah, she was not
You
happy.
know what Chester? You know what I think that thing on Saturn is, that geometric pattern.
Yeah.
I think that was an image, a CG image that was released too soon without going through quality control, and I think that pattern on the top is product of poor texture mapping. Because if you put a flat texture map on a 3D model of a sphere, that's exactly what it looks like at the pole.
Yeah,
If
but
you don't account.
I get your point, and I would normally accept that as yeah, why not? But the problem is, if we go back and throughout history, and we look at the representations of Saturn or whatever he's called in the various cultures, he's always represented by a few very standard objects, right? The scythe. Because he's the god of agriculture, the hourglass because he's the god of time, and the black box. He's always represented, and it's not just a black box, right? It's not just a flat box. It is a black box sat on one of its pointed tips, right? That's how it's always
That's
represented.
actually very interesting because agriculture and time. So basically, he was the god of entropy.
Yes, no,
Before
he
they
is the god
understood.
of entropy. Most certainly, he is. Yes, yes, yeah. But he's always been represented that way, model. Therefore, it it seems a bit coincidental. Now, you could maybe argue that they did that on purpose because they know that history, I
Right,
suppose.
and that would be my my argument.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ultimate.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Thunder. You want to say something?
Oh no, it just clicked in my head that that's what he was. I mean, whether they had a full conceptualization of entropy itself. I mean, that's what time and agriculture basically are. Agriculture is the opposite, trying to beat entropy, and time itself is entropy. So
Yeah.
it's a very interesting duality there. How many of the gods are like that? It's just clicked in my head is all.
Well, I mean, he's also ultimately the god of death, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of the imagery we have with the Grim Reaper and the scythe and all that is coming from him, right? Especially if we think about the understanding that for the great majority of our ancient, stories and ancient histories, Saturn was the king. Everyone agreed, right? Now you could say, well, we all came from one centralized culture and it spread out throughout the world. Okay, fine. But then he went away and his son came up, right? And therefore he became this thing of the past. He became this thing of death, this dead thing, right? Osiris, et cetera, et cetera, right? The Kronos has many faces and names for sure. Baal being one of them.
And part of my own bias comes into play. I mean, when it comes to NASA and space and all that, I just
Yeah.
very biased toward it. So I always go, whatever.
I get you. I understand. I understand 100%. And you're not necessarily wrong. I just think it's, like I said in the beginning, no one has any truth anyway. So enjoy whatever truth you like. And for me, the fact that Saturn and other planets too, it's not just Saturn, has this big hexagonal shape on top of it and a more roundish one on the bottom, that's just awesome. I think it's just cool. And because I love the Purple Dawn theory. That's one of my favorite theories of all time, dude. I love the idea that Earth came out of the dwarf sun, the brown dwarf sun that Saturn and Jupiter are. That Earth was born out of it because that's where planets come from. They're not formed from accretion, and that there was a cataclysm that threw us away from our mother. I just love it. I think it's the most coolest thing, dude. I gotta write a book about it. That'd be fun. You know?
I like it. I
Yeah.
like
So
it.
do
It
I.
makes a lot of sense actually when you think about it because Saturn and well, I don't know about Saturn, but Jupiter especially has a ton of moons.
Mhm.
So where did all those moons come from? Well, probably
Well,
from it.
Well, Mercury and actually, if you look at the planets and you check their magnetic signature, their axis of rotation, and all those kind of things, you can put the planets and group them into two. Really, they're
Hmm.
either from Saturn, they're all matching Saturn, or they're matching Jupiter, right? And the of course the plasma theories, the scientists' theories on this of trying to come up with Velikovsky and those other people like that, trying to come up with understanding what happened, is the fact that Saturn was actually from outside of this solar system and was an invader and came in. And when it came close to the sun, it got close to Jupiter. They created a bunch of havoc, and a bunch of the moons got thrown off from each of them, and they ended up into where the modern time is now. And of course, if you look at Saturn and Jupiter, they have lots of moons around them, many of which are very similar to the size of Earth, right? And they have water on them. They got all kind of stuff like that. They're
Well,
frozen
look at
now.
Titan. Look at Jupiter's Titan.
Oh yeah,
It almost definitely has life on it, even if it's just flora. It's there's almost. I mean, it's ridiculous that anybody looking at Titan could say it doesn't. It's got
sure.
an atmosphere. It's got ice. It's got everything that they claim is needed to create life.
Yep.
How does it not have it? If
Gan-
it doesn't, it's going to in due time.
Ganymede is also very important, very interesting, I think. But anyway, we're way off subject of governmental
We're not
black book
though.
projects, but
We're
we're
not
not.
though.
But we're
I'll
not.
bring it back to it
That's
real
right.
quick to it because if NASA's what it claims it is, they already know what we were just talking about. So let's say that they have evidence of these things that go against current dogma because that's what most science is now, is just religious dogma in a secular form. they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to release
No.
it because their whole shtick, they claim to be about exploration and this and science and all that. They're not about that. They're about covering up the truth. And they always have been. Since day one, that's what
Yes.
they've been doing.
Yeah, sure.
So they don't even deny that, in fact. They intentionally keep things from the public, and they're open about that. So if they knew it, if they knew that our cosmology is different than what we're told in school, different than how things are supposedly done, and that, most of the supposed astronomical theories are nonsense, they're not going to admit that. Why would they? They have no incentive to.
That's
None
true.
whatsoever.
That's a fair point. And keep this in mind as well. The Vatican, the Catholic Church, which is one of the richest and most powerful organizations on this planet, right? Some would argue the most powerful and richest. Although I think those Jews over in Switzerland got a little bit on them. But nevertheless, they're extremely powerful. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but do know that pretty much all of the observatories around the world are either directly owned by the Vatican or are funded by them. And the Vatican also owns a lot of deep space probes as well. Now, why is the Vatican so interested in space?
They don't have an answer that they'll tell you anyway.
I'm just saying, that's a truthful thing I just said. That is actually, you can go search that yourself. Why is the Vatican putting so much time, effort, and lots of money into these space projects? What's going on with that?
Looking
Well,
for
they have
space Jesus.
outlets out there.
Yeah, but they should have faith model. They don't
God
need a
demands to
satellite.
know what is out in space.
Is that what God demands? Okay.
Well, even still, they have one of the largest scientific organizations,
They
at
do.
least by large, most powerful
Yeah.
in the world,
They do.
directly under them. And most of their people, or a lot of the people who run it, are priests. Straight up, whatever it's called, priests. They have a special name for them. But yeah, the Vatican has been invested in science for a very, 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 very long time. Now, one of the main reasons that is, and one of the things that started the Protestant Reformation, is because they were covering up the truth. And God does command mankind to take dominion over the world, and study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. It's my favorite Bible verse. But God commands study. You're supposed to study this thing that He created for them.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with them having a science division. I do have a problem, however, when that science division is straight up heretical and says that evolution is real and that God is mostly metaphor. The Vatican says this.
Well, dude, what a shift when we get this new pope in, because he's a Jesuit, right? And I can't believe they actually put a Jesuit in, at least that they admitted he was a Jesuit. I am really shocked about that. But
he's a pretty questionable dude.
Very
This
questionable.
new guy.
Yeah, I'll take that German pedophile any day. This guy is dangerous, I'm telling you, because look what he's done since he's been in.
He's definitely a globalist too. He's into the whole thing.
He's changed their stand on homosexuality. He's been talking about the space alien thing quite a bit. I mean, he's done a lot of very secular things with the largest religious body on the planet. It's very bizarre.
It's just a weird field for them to even be involved in that heavily. Like, I don't. If they had, just study and just divisions that's what they did. They studied chemistry or even astronomy, whatever. That would all make sense to me because that's part of Christianity. You're supposed to try and understand the world.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is way deeper than that. It's a conspiracy theory all on its own. How invested the Vatican is into science is it's basically their new dogma. They just don't preach it, right?
Yeah,
they don't
it's
preach
weird.
it from the pulpit.
It is,
but
weird.
as much money as they invest in it, it might as well be theological to them.
Mm-hmm. And of course, if you go to Vatican City and you look around, and you can find some articles and probably some videos on it as well. The amount of satanic imagery in the Vatican is shocking, dude. But anyway, we come to the end of the show because I need to go to work. It is pretty fascinating, and if you don't know what a Jesuit is, look it up. And then you'll understand why I'm saying how the hell a Jesuit is the frickin' Pope of the Catholic Church, because that's not right. That's certainly not right, dude. That's like
The pushback on it's already happening. You have tons of high-level bishops and stuff all over the world who are basically calling this Pope a heretic
Well,
without
yeah,
calling him a
yeah, but I mean, the Jesuits are basically the militant side of the Catholic Church, dude. It's just
heretic.
anyway. Go if you don't know what a Jesuit is, go check it out because it'll shock you. But we're definitely at the end of the show. But interesting conversation today. Governmental Black Book projects, and there's so many of them. We could talk about any kind of thing individually, but we did cover the general themes of them, and that's definitely, I think, pretty cool. Now, I definitely would like to have more of you guys come on the show and talk, particularly on TFT, because looking at the chat, you guys got a bunch of opinions. So why don't you come on up here and give them? And let's have a fun conversation. But nevertheless, I'm going to let each of these guys give their closing comments, and then I'm going to go to Model today because Model is going to namaste us out of here. Slick,
Oh my God, I don't even have one.
I know.
Okay.
Slick, are you awake? Did you fall
Well,
asleep on me, Slick? Okay.
no, I'm still here. Your voice is so soothing now, so mellifluous, so sonorous in its nature that it
Thank
makes me drift off sometimes.
I know.
Here we go. I'm Slick Jimmy. I currently still have a book in demand. It is late for those who are wondering, and I'm working on that diligently. Got a new letterer for both parts of the book, the first and secondary stories. You can get me. You can find me on Slick Jimmy Love on Twitter and Slick Jimmy Speaks on the the YouTubes. Plus, I have a show that will be going on tomorrow night, the Cheesecake Challenge, at 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. I haven't decided on a theme. I should probably get on that tonight. Cause yeah. Anyway, that's me, and thanks, Chester.
Oh no, thank you very much. And Rodwell, you are absolutely true, correct, sir. We just scratched the surface. So much so, actually, next week, I think what I would like to do, if these guys agree, I would like to title next week's show "Space Phenomena," if I may, because there are a lot of things that go on in space with NASA imagery and videos and things coming out of the sun and craft moving around, and it could be a fun conversation. What do you guys think about talking about space anomalies next week?
Sure.
Oh, I hate space.
I know.
Why? You believe in the spheres?
Do I believe in the what?
The crystal
I
spheres.
never. The spheres.
I'm with
Yeah,
you,
it's the
dude. I
old
caught
Greek.
it. I caught it. That was a good short story, by the way. I really enjoy. I've read that 2 or 3 times. Anyway, so next week
Are you
we
talking
will.
about the book, Michael Crichton's book?
Yeah, the crystal spheres. Yeah.
The
But
crystal.
anyway, it's a good book. If you haven't read it, go check it out. It's on my list. It's The Invisible Man is on there too, and there's a current movie out right now called The Invisible Man, which is a very modern and interesting take on it, which all the critics I like, I love it. So that might be a good movie to check out. Of course, Sonic as well, I think. But thank you very much, there, Slick Thundero, Master of Lightning, out of the Arsh. What do you have to say, sir?
Nothing really. Everybody have a good night. This is we very very barely scratched the surface. There is an old quote that think of the worst possible thing the government could be doing. They're doing that and worse. So we've just barely touched the surface. Our government is not a monolith. It's huge. It's massive. There's organizations nobody even knows the name to.
Mm,
So we haven't even touched how deep the rabbit hole goes. But got to be careful going down that rabbit hole because you can get lost real easy.
you can.
But have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, fair point. And of course, guys, we're going to get out of here. To keep in mind that tomorrow we are going to be doing our session 0 for Comic Book Bob's D&D run on his world, which sounds really interesting, kind of fascinating. We got a really weird, almost like a Hellboy type of party. So if you're interested in that, come check it out. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, of course. No, it's not. That's not tomorrow. I'm sorry. Tomorrow
Yeah,
is
wait a
9. No, I'm sorry. Tomorrow is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's comics book news. I apologize. My brain is fluttered. But and we might have ourselves a guest tomorrow. Actually, we'll see how that works
Uh-oh.
out. But awesome. And of course, we're going to bring it over here to Model, and he's going to give his closing comments, and then he's going to namaste us out of here. So thank you, everybody, very much. model.
Yeah. Oh, my closing statement will be: don't panic about Corona, but go get toilet paper because it's selling out everywhere.
Oh my
People are
God.
hoarding toilet paper.
Oh my God, dude. That is the stupidest thing I've seen. It's here in Japan. They've lost their damn mind. I'm sorry. I can't not comment on that. Because here's the thing. Thunder, do me a favor. You get the computer in front of you. Could you open it up and do a search on Amazon for toilet paper, a pack of toilet
I
paper, please?
I could, but I have a very beautiful young lady laying on my chest right now, so I
Oh well,
can't reach my
dude,
keyboard.
I will take your obligation away, sir. Slicker model, could you guys search the price of a pack or like a 4-pack or something like that of toilet paper on Amazon.com, please?
Is it elevated?
I want to see if it is in the West.
Because I know that the Costco's and places like that are selling
Yeah.
out.
I just want to see what Amazon America is, please.
You can get 3 large packages for $31.49.
Pretty
Wow.
normal.
Okay. Now here, Amazon, a normal pack. I mean, what is that? What is that? An 8-pack? Was that what it comes in? Something like that. You normally go to the store, it costs $4, right? On Amazon here in Japan now, it's $20. So screw you, Amazon. Really, really.
Well, it's going to be happening here because today again I saw up in New York now that the large bulk centers now are being hit with. I mean, lines are on the block,
Yeah.
and they said at this Costco they were pallets of toilet paper were going out the door.
Yeah, that's true. Toilet paper, it's very interesting, the importance of toilet paper to people. But it's funny here in Japan because there's been a panic on it. Now, we're well stocked here, so I'm not really worried about it. But the interesting thing is, it came out that there was a rumor started in Japan that toilet paper had been pulled off the production line because they were using it to the materials to make masks. And of course, that's complete bunk. And the government
Sure.
came out and said, "No, this is nonsense. There's plenty of toilet paper. Don't worry about it." But they've been talking about freaking toilet paper for 3 days. 3
Yeah, it's
days.
been going on here too. But that to be aware of it, that is how you start getting shortages in the supply chain.
Yep,
People start hoarding.
that's
It's
right.
like, how many times a day are you going to take a crap? Even if the end of the world, you're going to have other options.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, go ahead and namaste us. My wife is calling me. I gotta go check that in a second.
Oh,
Okay, 2 things from the Dhammapada. You are what you think, and if you want to be happy, be happy.
Namaste. True.
mm.
Later, guys.
Hasta banana.